Welcome to Exploring Harry Potter. Why did Harry leave Quidditch, and what did it feel like? It all began in year 1, during a beginner's flying lesson when a rather clumsy boy named Neville Longbottom lost control of his broom and broke his arm. When brought to the school's hospital wing, a cruel bully, Draco Malfoy, found he left his Rememberall. That's a small ball that turns red when you have forgotten something. And poor sweet Neville, it was always red. Draco wanted to impress the class. No, he wanted to teach them. Teach them to fear him. He took Neville's Rememberall and kicked off the ground, flying into the air, after being told not to, by the way, by the professor when she and Neville left. Not that Draco ever cared. He threatened to break it. Harry, barely knowing any of his fellow students, still knew it was wrong. It was how his cousin Dudley Dursley treated him. Abused him. Bullied him. At what can only loosely be called a home. It lit a spark in Harry. Despite never having been on a broom, he flew up to Draco face to face. Draco, hating to be outdone, especially by Harry, he threw it. In a split second, Harry tore after it, catching it in front of the window of Professor Minerva McGonagall, also the head of house in Gryffindor. She spoke to the headmaster, Albus Dumbledore, and got permission for a first-year student to be on a Quidditch team, which was usually against school policy. Harry was to play for her team, his team, the Gryffindors. Harry's position was as a seeker, the player who finds the very small gold flying ball called a snitch, about the same size as the Rememberall. He was the youngest player for his team in 100 years, and he loved it. And who wouldn't? The flying alone. Just imagine kicking off the ground and soaring 50 feet in the air or more. The feeling of the wind whipping through your hair, against your clothes, the gliding and movements of the broom. Any direction you wanted, up, down, left, right, diagonal, it had to be breathtaking. It was a rocky start. Between not even knowing how to fly, he didn't even know the game, really practiced. Harry had to learn it all, fast, and he did. He had great natural skill. He could fly better, faster, and easier than anyone. And everyone knowing his discovery was thanks to Draco Malfoy made it even better. Draco throwing Neville's Rememberall really came back to bite him. He was miserable about it. On more than one occasion, Harry got seriously injured, but he still played. He never quit, he never gave up. He just fought harder. He was even made captain. But sometimes good things never last. No matter how hard you work, there are things out of your control. And that's exactly what happened. Harry's glorious triumphs in Quidditch abruptly ended. And he wasn't the only one either. In fact, 3 students were kicked off the Gryffindor's team at the same time, on the same game, for the same reason. In Order of the Phoenix, Fred and George Weasley, as well as Harry, beat up Draco Malfoy. He had been saying rotten and horrible things about the Weasley family, and then Lily Potter, Harry's deceased mother. Can you even imagine saying terrible things about a person's family member who passed away? Who was murdered by the Dark Lord Voldemort? Along with your father? And not only did he lose his parents, but he had to live a life in hell at his aunt's. Being marked and the number 1 on Voldemort's kill list year after year. The evil in the heart of Draco, of anyone really who'd be able to do that, I just don't understand, and I would have hit him a lot earlier. They were all pushed to their breaking point, especially Harry, who had to endure Draco's constant bullying year after year after year. All three physically attacked Draco and his friends, hitting and punching until pulled apart. And I know it's wrong, but who could blame them? I'd likely do the same, and a lot earlier. Oh, right. Dolores Umbridge. Being the evil person she was, as bad as any Death Eater, and almost as cruel as Voldemort. Being a Slytherin herself didn't help. She immediately banned all three boys from playing Quidditch permanently. And all three thought it was worth it, at least initially. They had thought maybe Dumbledore or their head of house could intervene. It was an attack long provoked, and while you should never harm anyone, after years of abuse, you can sometimes just snap. Fred and George didn't seem to care much. They were older and had other pursuits in mind, such as their joke shop, which turned out to be a great success. Harry, however, he didn't really have anything outside of Hogwarts. He had no life that wasn't tied to school. He had spent 10 years locked in a cupboard under the stairs and tormented by his aunt, uncle, and cousin. But then one day, he could fly. The freedom to go anywhere. It was the polar opposite of where he had been. Think how he must have felt when his anger faded, starting to realize how much he lost again. Constantly hearing about Quidditch matches, watching his own team, watching Ginny Weasley, the woman who would be the love of his life, his wife, and mother to his children. I imagine Harry never felt the same again. Until Dolores Umbridge's reign of terror was over. In the Half-Blood Prince, he was made captain of the team and resumed his position as Seeker. But due to Snape giving him detention, he missed the last and most important game. Something else stolen from him. And that's where he left Quidditch. He, along with Ron and Hermione, left school and spent the next year finding and destroying Horcruxes of Voldemort. He could have returned, gone back to make up his final year at Hogwarts like Hermione did, play for his house team again. But no. Did he try out for the professional leagues, as so many others do? No. I think it was forever tainted for him. After everything, I think any love he had for playing Quidditch was now bittersweet. And he had to bury it deep inside. Or he chose to bury it deep inside, along with so much else. Truly losing something so special, so loved, he'd learn to go numb. He'd have to. To Harry, loving something meant the possibility of losing it. So he'd protect it, not let it get taken away again. Hold on to whatever's left and store it safely, deep inside. How do you go from being the famous chosen one, the Quidditch champion, to just a normal person without leaving things behind? I think the only risks left he was willing to make were for people. People that he helped in the ministry, hunting down the last Death Eaters, serving and protecting the public, making sure every last Death Eater and supporter of Voldemort was brought to justice, and dedicated to those he loved. His wife, his children, Ron, Hermione, their children, the Weasley family. But I hope and imagine that maybe late at night, when everyone was put to bed, he'd go outside, grab a broom, and just fly. And then safely land, put the broom back, and crawl into bed next to his beautiful wife.
Is this all real? Or is it just happening inside my head?
Of course it's happening inside your head, Harry. Why should that mean that it's not real?
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. If you liked what you saw, you can subscribe and most importantly, hit the notification bell so you won't miss an upload.